Oh, I miss Squaresoft so much. Like other people I've seen online and talked to, I grew up with the Final Fantasy series. Specifically Final Fantasies 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, at first, I didn't really get to play these games since I was a bit too young, but I would enjoy watching my dad play these games for hours. And of all the titles he played, 10 was the one he played the most. Final Fantasy is a very important series for me. It's the series that I bonded over with my dad, the series that introduced me to RPGs, and helped me bloom my interests in the fantasy genre and fantasy world building. Personally, I love playing Final Fantasy 1, 5, 7, Tactics, and Tactics Advance. And then we have 9, my favorite game in the series. I enjoy 4, but have never really got that much into it. And I can't say too much about 6, as I haven't played enough of that game to get a strong opinion on it. But I do plan on playing it again sometime, and I can't wait. Right now, however, it's time to start talking about Final Fantasy X. Okay, so the story. I find it to be pretty alright. To be fair, you do go on quite the adventure, visiting interesting locations, meeting some decent side characters, and you even get to crash a wedding. I like learning about the world of Spira, like the different cultures, the importance summoners have in maintaining peace and passing on the dead, and how unsent souls can become monsters. My issue really comes down to Titus, or Titus, however you want to pronounce it. For me, he's mostly annoying, and sure, he has a personal connection in the story as well as being a love interest, but I never really cared for his relationships. Instead, I find myself more interested in the more mature and responsible characters, like Auron with his great backstory and connection to Yuna and Titus's father, and Lulu with her caring but no-nonsense nature. Kimahri and Riku are just okay. Yuna really should be the main character to me, as she has the greatest personal stakes, as she has chosen the path of a summoner. It is her job now to join with other Aeons and to eventually put an end to an evil reincarnating creature called Sin, just like her father before her. This just ends up making her character so much more engaging, particularly the personal struggles that she ends up going through. That's another thing, I like the threat Sin presents, making your hero's goal something to root for. On top of that, you get some entertaining villains along the way. But you really want to see Sin end because he does destroy quite a few villages and kills quite a few people. It feels like a genuine threat and nuisance to Spira that needs to be ended. Again, I find the story to be overall pretty alright. It has some high moments, and I won't lie that some of the more stronger emotional scenes with specific characters still get to me. It's a fun adventure from beginning to end, as long as you're willing to tolerate Titus and his nuisances at times. Like previous Final Fantasy games before it, 10 is a turn-based RPG. You'll be traveling to different locations, taking on boss fights, and doing the occasional side quest. Progressing your way through the game really isn't all that hard, as you're constantly being told where you need to go next. On top of that, the game is extremely linear. While the areas you visit look nice, a vast majority of them are simple paths, with little in the way of deviation. This to me is the worst part of the game. Sure, there are some hidden treasure chests and side quests pop up often, but there isn't much in the way of dungeons, and it isn't until later in the game do you get to go to a place that feels more open and leads to optional locations. Thankfully though, we have temples. These kinda help make up for the lack of more complex dungeons. Temples will have you pushing blocks and moving spheres to solve puzzles that will take you to some Aeons at the end. A couple of the later temples do get very complex and rather confusing, though I still find them enjoyable and I like how they offer a different kind of challenge. Keep in mind that you can't save in these usually, so be careful that when you get to temples that can take up to an hour your first time. Speaking of saving, save points are found all throughout the world, and they are a bit overpowered, as not only do they save your progress, they fully heal your party, making them great grinding locations. At the same time though, save points make the small inns almost pointless. Shops are also a bit pointless, at least when it comes to weapons, but finding good armor and items at least keeps them somewhat useful. I just tend to find too many weapons after battles. Let's talk about those next. Battles are these turn-based fights that are fast and fluid as your characters perform their actions right after you select them, and you can easily switch characters in and out as well as their weapons and armor. What's great is that every character, with the possible exception of Kimahri, serves a use in battle for different situations. Yuna has great support spells, Lulu can take out elementals with black magic, Wakka is good for flying enemies and status inflicting, Auron is fantastic for armored enemies, and Riku is perfect for using Al-Bhed items and taking out Machina. In addition to this, we have a turn list that will show you how different moves will affect the turn order, so it's great for planning out an effective strategy. Characters also get these powerful moves called overdrives that have to be built up, and each overdrive is unique to each character, and this is where Kimahri actually becomes fun to me, as his overdrives are monster attacks, and Riku's overdrive makes her potentially the most broken character in the game. My most favorite aspect of battles in 10 is summoning, as instead of it just being a long and powerful one-time spell, Aeons are actually playable characters with their own personal attacks, stats, and overdrive. This has always charmed me, as it felt like a little bit of mixing in some Pokemon when I was younger. Later on, you can even customize some spells for the Aeons to learn, which is really neat. Leveling up, however, is a little different. All characters shared this sphere grid, with each of them at different parts of it. Every time they get a quote-unquote level, it gives them a chance to move around the sphere grid. Here, they will be able to improve their stats and learn new skills and spells. However, you will need the right kind of spheres to place in the grid in order to do so, but you'll often get these spheres from battles, so it's really not that big of a deal. Eventually, all characters can enter everyone else's area of the sphere grid and learn their skills as well, but this is more of a very late endgame thing. To me, the sphere grid is interesting. I won't lie when I say I would prefer a more traditional level up system, but again, it doesn't bother me too much. It's just an okay thing. And lastly, we have side quests, and let me tell you, there are many side quests. First, we have a mini game called Blitzball, an underwater soccer-like game where you can recruit players from around Spira and win tournaments to earn items. Personally, I never really play this, but I appreciate the idea. It's always nice to have mini games in an RPG that some people can really get into. There are a few extra Aeons to go on the hunt for. You can capture monsters for this battle arena where you can eventually take on difficult optional bosses. Chocobos are of course in this game, and they can take you to special locations, and eventually you can even try to train a chocobo as well, which is way more difficult than you'd think. Every character has an ultimate weapon referred to as a celestial weapon that needs to be powered up by finding these special items, and trust me, of all the celestial weapons to look for, you should definitely go for Auron's. It's really strong, really good, and not too difficult to find, and fully upgrade. Thankfully, you get an airship at the end of the game to travel to previous locations. Unfortunately, it's rather limited, but you can find an optional dungeon with tough monsters and a boss fight at the end. So yeah, despite how linear the game is, towards the end, a lot of optional side content opens up that can often be rewarding. As to be expected, character models look great, environments are rich with detail and atmosphere, and the voice acting is pretty alright. I don't know, I don't find the voice acting as bad as people have said. Sure, there are some poor line readings, but bad? I can't say that considering certain other games I've played for both the PlayStation 1 and PS2. The art direction is one of my favorites for the system, mostly when it comes to the monsters. I love how the bombs and flans look in this Final Fantasy game. And best of all, the Aeons. 10 has my favorite Ifrit design, and I very much like that of others such as Anima and Bahamut, who look amazing. Then we have a variety of lovely looking locations, like tropical islands, city ruins, crystalline forests, and the Thunder Plains. Of course, the music. How I love the music in this game. I'm sure many are familiar with To Xanarkin, but some other great themes I would recommend giving a listening to would be the normal battle theme, Song of Prayers, Bayset Island, and Challenge. Ultimately, I still really like Final Fantasy X. Sure, it's a very linear RPG, and you don't get that great of an airship or a world map to really explore, but holy crap, it's a damn good linear RPG. The combat is fast and fluid, boss fights are great with some fun and interesting strategies, as long as you don't spam summons. At the same time though, the summons are awesome and enjoyable to use, there's great music, and there are some worthwhile side quests to do. The game just has a great sense of pacing to me. It never feels too long, which is great for replay. So yes, I would recommend Final Fantasy X. It's a game worth playing if you're into RPGs, and if you haven't tried many of them, I would still give this game a try, as it's not too hard. It's pretty beginner friendly, at least to me. This is another RPG I would add to my list of personal best RPGs for the PlayStation 2. Maybe I have a bit of a bias here since I grew up with this game, but I think it has plenty of strengths that make it a worthwhile game. 10 even got a sequel, which I don't like the story to or its progression, but the turn-based combat and class system I find to be fun. There is also an HD version of 10 for PS3 and PS4 that added some new optional bosses and changed the sphere grid, and a few other things, though I haven't played it as I'm not that interested. The original for the PlayStation 2 is perfectly fine for me. So instead of talking about 10-2, next time we'll be taking a look at 12, as that's a game I have more to say about. See you then.